Hola, hola, familia, and welcome back to Tech and Tequila, the podcast where tech meets comunidad y corazón. I'm your host, Kat Lopez Shelby, your techie chica, and today we are diving into a conversation that I know is going to hit home for so many business owners, founders, and entrepreneurs who are out there doing amazing work on the outside, but behind the scenes, they feel a little bit heavy, maybe possibly like a hot mess in a handbag, or maybe just a hot mess, however. And it feels much more heavier than it appears to everyone else on the outside. Because sometimes from the outside, a business can look successful. The brand looks polished, the offers are selling, the content is going out, the business is making that money, getting that bag, but behind the scenes, everything still depends on the founder. And the systems are disconnected, they're not integrated, the offers do not flow together, the customer journey is a little fuzzy, and growth starts to feel like pressure more than progress. So today, we're talking about the structure behind the business, not just the pretty front end, not the beautiful website that looks gorgeous, not just the marketing, not just what tool should I use. We're talking about what actually has to be in place if you want your business to grow without breaking you in the process. I want to say that again. You want your business to grow without breaking you or you pulling your hair out or any of the above, right? And for this conversation, I am super excited because I am joined by someone who does that exactly. And that is Miss Malissa Priddy. She is considered a operating systems architect for business. And what I personally amor about her and her work is she helps solopreneurs, founders take all their brilliance they're carrying in their head, their offers, their processes, and how they help people and turn it into real structure so the business can scale without collapsing under its own weight. So, of course, Melissa, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, obviously, I'm going to say thank you so much because I am glad you're here because I think this is one of those conversations people do not realize they need until they're in the middle of a business that feels way too complicated than it should be. Or they're in the middle of trying to build a funnel and they just feel like their whole brain is going to like explode because they're like, what do I do?
Right.
You know?
Yes.
So I want to jump in here and I want to talk. So for people who are hearing, first off, your name for the first time, or they hear operating system architect for a business and they think, what is that? Why don't you tell everyone what exactly it is you do?
Sure. So been doing this for several years, almost 8 years now. And it's become clearer and clearer to me that we all, get into this digital marketing space and feel like it's something we need to learn how to do, build a funnel or create a website. That's what we need. But now what I tell people, that is just basically the very front piece of what you're presenting. It's what, gets people's attention. But if you're really good at what you do and you're really good at getting attention, it's definitely not enough to hold the weight, like you said, because there are all the things in the back end that have to happen so that people are tagged correctly, that the right email flows go out, or if you want to go back to that audience and send another offer, like, do you have a smart list created that's going to make that easy? With AI coming out and all the AI generated agents, that back end piece is like hiring people. You're just building, somebody who can work on the system behind the scenes for you. But do you want to take the time to learn how to do that, or do you want to hire a team that can get that done for you?
No, I love that because it really gets, especially for solo entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs with particularly small teams, is like, that is the thought process. It's like when they think about AI or about doing another offer or a launch or anything, it's like, okay, what do I have the like capability of doing? And then is this something that I'm going to have to train myself on as well? And that can be a huge, like, a stop for them because
Yeah.
some people just honestly don't have the technical expertise and it can be very overwhelming. And that's where you come in, right?
Right. Right. The goal for us is to, the first thing I like to do is look at, your offers and your processes and just see what's happening in behind the scenes. And then I can quickly see places where we could plug in systems that allow you to stop being so manual in your process. And we are not overly automating things. We don't want the AI to take over. We don't want you to feel like it's not you presenting yourself in the process, but like if your onboarding process is automated, it's all the right emails are going out, all the right connections are being made. Your people know where to go to find you, to hang out with you, to book your call or do whatever it is they do with your onboarding process. If you're hiring people and you do hire teams, the whole hiring process, making that simplified for you to remove all the paperwork so you're not filing paperwork still. You've got it all in a system where it's easy to automate and trigger things to happen that you need to happen quickly. So it's after the sale happens or in order for you to be able to, deliver what you need to deliver. Those are the pieces that we're going to automate, but not necessarily the work that you're going to do. That's your gift, that's your talent, that you're still going to do that part and present that part.
Yeah, because obviously I always like to say that particularly for any business or, well, not any business, but I mean, in general, you are kind of the special sauce of your business because, and I always compare this as a trusted technology advisor, there's more than just my agency out here, but I'm particularly the special sauce for Shelby Tech, whereas someone else's agency, and I'm going to pick one off my head because I love Jim McNeese. Jim McNeese is C to Excel. He's the special sauce for that, right?
Right.
You're talking a lot about adding, standard operating procedures, SOPs, right, things like that. You talk a lot about structural debt in business. And I want to kind of hang out there for a second because number one, I like that phrase. But when you say that to someone, or you really want to do more of a visual, what structural debt looks like in real life, how does that look and how does it show up for founders day to day?
I mean, I just know that it's really difficult to scale when you're doing everything manually. And so you feel stuck in your revenue because you're doing the same manual processes over and over again. And you're not able to keep up with the other parts of your business. So that weight gets heavier and heavier. And that's why we call it, we want your business to feel light. We want you to love what you're doing, share your passion, share the skill set and the knowledge base that you have with your people so that you can bring that to the world. And so we don't want it to be heavy for you. We want it to be light. There's work behind getting it built, but once it's built, that's debt, right? Because you're piling more and more on, that has to be done manually, especially if you want to scale, it gets bigger and bigger. So for us, it's creating the system that allows you to generate that revenue and to, grow it consistently. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's the big thing is because a lot of times people, like when you're, you talked about revenue, right? And maybe you're, let's say here, which people who can't see this, I'm like kind of halfway, and you want to get higher or you want to do this. It's like, I need a better marketing plan or I need this. But some of the back end to that is, okay, so what happens when you have those people or you have that thing, that you're saying, I want this, but you don't have those operating procedures or those in the back end. So it can be disjointed disjointed, which leads to my favorite word, overwhelm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a delicate balance between marketing and getting your content out there, because what if you go viral? What if you actually get some really great advice or a really great social media manager and things go crazy and you get really, I mean, I've had clients that's why they reached out to me, because they went super viral. And they had no idea what to do with they had no idea what to do in the back end to make sure that they're able to show up and be able to offer an offer that's going to be easy for somebody. Like, my goal is to remove all the friction, right? We don't want any buying friction. We want to remove the buying friction, so that when you scale, so when you make that connection with your audience and they decide that they're ready to go, that you're ready for them to go and you can handle, that was, I've seen some hot messes for sure. It makes it even heavier.
I know. I always like to say, Mindy Kaling, and I don't know if this was like her character or just like a direct quote. She's like, well, if you're going to be a mess, at least be a hot one. And, if you're going to be a mess, be a hot mess, but having your business be a hot mess or having it cause you to be overwhelmed or, a stress magnet all the time. Cortisone is not good for us ladies. Let's just be really honest about that. That it can be too much. And I think that what you're talking about really covers, because a lot of times entrepreneurs, solopreneurs will go out there, they'll get a new tool, they'll hire a freelancer, something will happen, but instead of things getting lighter, which is their goal, right? They actually get a lot heavier because they either don't have the actual like SOPs in place or the integrations in place. And you're having to build that from the ground up, right?
Right. And it also comes down to having a system that is an all-in-one system that has everything in, where you're not trying to make everything connect. But even deeper than that is actually using that as your base camp, like your place where you go to run your business daily, that you're in there looking at your contacts, you're in there looking at your pipelines, you're in there looking at, all the things that make your business money. And looking at your revenue and looking at, where you're at for the month. All that is, if that's all in one system with a quick, easy look at, you know what you need to do. You know what I mean? You know what you need to do. But also, one of the things that I help with is the offer mapping part, because people need to know, like, what if I'm not ready for your signature offer? What if I'm not ready for that big package? Do you have anything for me? Because one day I will be ready. Do you have the package for the person who is in the middle, right? And I do believe in one main offer, but then you have offers that lead up to that, and also offers that build authority. And so building that entire like ecosystem out gives you that structure that you need, which that's my big word, right? It's the structure you need for stability.
No, and I think that really leads into what my next question was going to be about, because let's be honest, everyone that is an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, whatever, they're in this because they want to have revenue. They want to, bring in. And I think this is what is huge for the audience. And, we're talking about some of the mistakes that people make, right? What are the biggest mistakes you see when it comes to how their revenue is structured, like that hurts them or keeps them from getting from point A to point B per se?
The first thing I would say is squirrels and reinventing the wheel every couple of days, because it didn't work the way they wanted it to work. And one of the ways that I look at it as, if you've not ever been in sales before, presenting your offer can create that friction for you, because you're not confident in offering it and you're getting told it has to be this price, sell a $10,000 offer, and you've never sold anything, right? And so you're like, wait, how do I do that? Some people, they don't question it, they just go for it and do it. But what if there was a way to structure your pricing out so that you could get people at different levels, either through evergreen offers or through your signature offer? But don't make your signature offer so big that you have no confidence to sell it, because somebody told you that you needed to have a $25,000 offer. I see that mistake happen a lot. And so the person gets very frustrated because they can't sell a $25,000 offer and they think it's their offer. And I do want you to charge, your worth, but you've got to grow into that ability to sell, because selling is a big part, even though people hate sales. And I would say sales is more of a presenting the transformation and the identity that they will have once they've completed the process, versus making them pay you money for, because if you're going to do a good job, if you've proven the way that you work and you're able to help people accomplish whatever it is that your transformation provides, then it's not selling, it's just, letting them know that you have the skill set to help them do what they need to do and to accomplish it. But you have to have that confidence in that.
Well, and I think too, one thing is when you're talking about offers, right? I love the idea about having one signature offer. And, we don't want to get into the squirrels, because Lord knows shiny object or squirrel syndrome can affect all of us sometimes. And I think there's a huge difference between pivoting something due to what your market is telling you or your audience is telling you, sure, and just going, oh, this shiny thing over here, I think I should do this, right? Exactly. Which really, I think that leads into one of the things that you have created is the offer method. And I would love if you can break that down for us. Like, how should business owners think about their offer, structure their offers, so, for lack of a better term, so that the money is flowing more predictably, like they're getting a predictable MRR, monthly reoccurring revenue?
I could go, through the whole thing, but it just, obviously the first thing anybody needs to make sure they understand and are clear on is their signature offer, because everything should build up to the signature offer. And so you'll see the orientation offer, which is the O in offer. And that orientation offer is going to be something like a workshop. And I call it the high value lead magnet, because with AI, people can go and ask any question and get a plethora of information. They are not information hungry. They are transformation hungry. And so if you're just giving more information, then that's not going to be helpful, and that's not going to be considered high value. So in your orientation offer, it's, your goal is to let them see the identity they could have, right? That's where they want to go. That's where they want to be. So that micro-specific transformation that they want to have, you give that to them in this activation offer. And then in that, you move them into the next offer, which is your entry offer. So that's going to be the F is first step offer. So the first step they can take that's not too big of a leap, so that you can then again build more trust with them. Like your podcast is a great trust builder, right? Because they know and can listen to all the conversations that you have. But if you wanted to do something where they're just, coming into your world to learn more about what you do, and then you have your authority funnel, which it's basically your evergreen products for the people who want to learn on their own, but each of those should be specifically towards a micro transformation as well. So your entry offer is going to lead into a bridge offer, and then that goes into your signature offer. So the bridge offer is going to be typically something that is done in a group format. And I'm really getting more into the evergreen, suggesting that, clients do the evergreen and not the cohorts, because you're limited in the cohorts. But for that monthly recurring revenue, creating that membership or that masterclass or whatever, not a masterclass, I'm sorry, a mastermind. So those are your offers that you're going to build. You're going to only build one of each, right? One of the steps, but it's so that you're thinking like, I'm here now in this mindset of, this is what I do, this is what I help people with, and remembering where you were before you got here, or where your clients were or your audience was before they got here. And you're taking those pieces that if you went and looked in your Canva, you could probably find all the ideas you had that led you here. And all those pieces, you just take those pieces and you build out the ladder, right? We all know that there's that ladder. And so this is basically helping people do that. And I do have a very specific system I use to make sure that when I have a client we're doing their offer map, that we get very detailed, good information and great ideas that they can build on. And so then that makes it so that when we go to build their system, we know we have all the pieces to the puzzle. And it's so much easier to build when you know why you're building. So if you just go build a website or just go build a funnel, you're kind of just creating that hot mess with no structure. And that's the whole reason I do the offer map, because I don't even want to build anything until I know we have a solid offer map that we can use as our guide in building.
No, and I really like that, because I think that is such a good frame. I mean, I like that you talked about the transformation. Like, what does the transformation look like? Because I think sometimes people get stuck on, I need to let them know like what I do, right? But what is really important to your client is what type of transformation, or what am I going to experience? What is that going to look like for me, right?
And that doesn't mean a huge offer stack of a bunch of things they're getting that's overwhelming. It means, like, who am I going to be after I'm done with this? And am I going to be closer to my goal?
Exactly. And there's something that you said in there, and give me 1 second, just bear with me, because I'm pulling out my notebook, because I just wrote this down, because I was actually listening to another podcast earlier, and I thought it was so interesting that you bring this up, because now if I can find the page, give me 1 moment, because it literally leads into kind of our next question, but also it talks about, like, when you talk about a transformation, especially with like a business owner or somebody who is, looking, is, what is your biggest bottleneck, right? And bear with me, I want to say that Cody Sanchez said this right here is the number one thing that you can help a client with, help a business with. And if you can do that, like, that is a measure of your level of success. Like, you will be super successul. I'm paraphrasing. Nobody, like, there's not a quote on that. So, don't chat GPT that one. But anyways, that's basically what they say. And I think that that's really what you're talking about, because a lot of times if you're missing that map that you're talking about, and you just grab, for lack of a better term, like the latest tech stack, the latest integration, whether that be ManyChat or Go Higher Level or whatever, you're just putting a tool on top of an existing problem. You're not really cleaning it up.
And if you talk to your AI too much about your ideas about products, you're going to be all over the place, scattered all over the place. Unless, of course, you know how to teach it first, how to do an offer ladder, and you teach it all the things you want to teach it. But a lot of times we don't do that, right? We just go into it and think, okay, I'm just going to ask it a question and hope it knows. But we teach it what it knows. So if we don't teach it first, then it's just leading us astray, I feel like, and waste so much of our time.
No, I absolutely think so. I am a firm believer that, yes, AI is the answer to some issues, but it is not the universal Band-Aid for absolutely everything. For sure. And I think that the basis of this and what we're really talking about is that it's not necessarily that you're getting your tech stack wrong. It's, how much is it actually a systems problem versus a tool problem? Because both really need to be addressed, right? You need to have the systems, and then you need to have the tool, right? And for lack of a better term, have them working in alignment, right? Oh, absolutely. So when you start working with a client, like, you're fixing their systems, what happens when you get to the point where you're like, all right, now we need to look at our tools, and what are recommendations that you make for your clients? Because we all want our tech to be easy and workable, and that's what your Techie Chica is all about.
Yes.
So
So I look at it as the build environment, the environment in which you want to build your business, and where you're going to be building out your lead list. You're going to be building out your calendar, your pipelines, of course, your funnels and websites and automations are all a part of that. But yeah, we've got our own for our clients that we use for Go High Level. We just use, it's a Go High Level platform, of course, and just with our secret sauce inside. So yeah, we recommend, our clients get on that, and as we build and get them to where they want to be and they're ready to graduate, they can graduate to their own Go High Level account if they ever choose to. We keep that really simple for them. But the tools, I keep mine as light as possible. I still use things like Zoom, of course, and I still use Descript because I love that tool. But those don't necessarily have to integrate with Go High Level. So anything that I have for my business for my clients, that's all built in Go High Level, including my SOPs, all the things.
Yeah. And I was going to say one thing is like, part of what I talk to a lot of clients about, and I'm sure that you see this when you're transitioning, like, if you have a client that knows the ins and outs, the lefts, the right, the ups and the downs of like Wix or GoDaddy or WordPress, right? You're not going to go in and say, all right, let's completely recreate the wheel. But what you're going to do is look at what is working for them effectively, number one. And number two, are there any things that they have where they're like overlapping or it's causing a disparagement in their systems, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I want to be very transparent. I use the back end of Go Higher Level too. So it's not like I have a huge experience with the others, but I do know that depending on what a person likes kind of depends on how they go. And it's more about the systems that they create is the big importance, and having everything be easy to find and all that good stuff.
And there are people who have spent tons of money having those sites built, and they don't want to rebuild their sites. And I wouldn't even say that we are necessarily website or funnel builders. I wouldn't even say that anymore. Although it's a piece of the system. So let's say somebody has a huge WordPress presence with great SEO and all the things. That's really still just a matter of, if they wanted to, instead of using all the pieces that go into a website like that, where they can break, or you have to do the updates, you have to have somebody doing your manual updates for you constantly. You could, replace those buttons or those forms or the calendars all with your Go High Level, and still run the website through your host if you wanted to, or you could host with High Level. High Level is doing something every single week new. Everything that is asked for is basically being added. And so we started Fast Start Pro, and that's our environment that we build our clients in. And that is where we're going to have the snapshots for the offer map, all the things that people need to quickly build out those things if they want to build it themselves. But those are some of the great benefits of using that system. So let's say you have a great website, but you have a single offer and you want a funnel, and then you get unlimited funnels inside of your Go High Level account or your Fast Start Pro account, whichever one you go with. The Fast Start Pro is going to include support from us. So that's why it's a little bit different. And then you're able to just connect all those things in your CRM, and everything runs inside of High Level. You can do your socials through High Level. You can do your email campaigns through High Level. And so you just can start knocking off all those other tools that are all mixed matched if you wanted to. And then build it in just the one system, and keep your other expensive website that you probably paid somebody to build for you. So there's always solutions for that when they come through with their structure and needing to see how. Like, that's one of the biggest fears, I think, is like, gosh, I just, maybe 2 years ago spent whatever amount of money on a website. I don't want to do that again. So then that's our job to figure out how to structure it so that it all can go in one place and still, collect all in one area. So you have one command center for your business.
No, and I love that because, as someone is wanting to scale, right, and they're growing and they're doing this, you want your business, your tools, everything to feel like it's becoming more supportive, more intentional, more resilient, because you want your growth to be bonita, right?
Right.
Like, do you feel bonita? That's what you want your growth to feel like. You want it to be bonita. You do not want it to be where it's making you like just taking that deep breath and holding it. You know, I think we all know what that feels like. At least most entrepreneurs have had that moment, you know? So I think when you are talking to people about structure and about their business, you know, what are probably the first 2 or 3 things that someone can do right now to clean up, you know, something in their business, whether it's a tool, whether it's, you know, their offer, you know, what would your recommendation be?
The first thing to remove friction, I feel like, is to have somewhere for them to go. So they can either have a book a call page or an application page, just depending on how they want, because I don't know that everybody thinks that way about having those 2 pages. But the other thing is simple workflows that tag their contacts appropriately. Those are the simplest things I can think of that you could do. I think the most important thing is to connect your systems and make sure you've got a system that's not disconjointed and what some people call it the Frankenstein system, you know. That's, to me, one of the biggest things you can fix. So.
Mm-hmm. No, I am the queen of talking about Frankenstein systems because,
right.
You know, and I've told you this before, like one of my favorite stories to tell people is I was talking to someone once and I was just randomly asking, it's one of the questions we go through during our tech review is like, hey, so I noticed you have a firewall. How long have you had that? And when is the last time you patched it? And the customer looked at me and goes, it was there when I moved in.
Yeah.
Like they moved into the building, it already exists. And I'm like, oh, well, you know, and whatever it may be, right? But it's like, as you're growing, as you're scaling, whatever may be happening, sometimes we go through and you're like, I need to Band-Aid this. But if we have the opportunity to take the time, it's better to, instead of Band-Aid, is like actually, you know, I'm going to use some medical terms, so I apologize. But it's better to have, you know, the surgery to fix whatever is going on and then actually fix it, because in the long run, that's going to be better, right?
Yeah, because the Band-Aids are what makes it so heavy, because you're hoping it sticks, you're hoping it connects, you're hoping that everything works the way it's supposed to work. So yeah. That's the biggest thing. It was like, heal your system. If we're staying in the medical, heal your system by removing the Band-Aids and putting it all in one environment so that you have the ability to manage it very easily, or add team members who can manage it, or add an AI agent that can manage it in a way that makes it make sense for you and makes it lighter for you.
Yes. And I absolutely love that because, you know, one of the things that I think is you're talking about updating people's structures. You're talking about having a business that doesn't feel heavy, that it feels light. And a lot of people, you know, you want to have impact, you want to have legacy. And the truth is that when your system feels light, when you're able to scale, when your tech stack is working for you, it's a lot easier for you to make that impact and to be able to help more customers and serve more people, right? So leading kind of into that, what do you feel if someone is building a business, not just for income, but for impact and legacy? What should they be prioritizing differently from day one?
I think about this a lot because I have grown kids. My daughter's, you know, not interested in the business at all. But and I have told her, if something happens to me, like, this is what I'm building and you need to know so that I can hand it to you. So my goal is to keep it as simple as possible so that if she, if the monthly recurring revenue piece or the annual recurring revenue piece, those are the things that she'd want to keep, I'm pretty sure. So I just think building it in a way that somebody could take it over, that's your legacy, right? On the impact part, it's just one of the things, like teaching. For me, I've been teaching people how to use the system so that they can create their own income to help people with the things that are more admin stuff or VA type stuff. So they, obviously that's the part they're going to do, but I'm teaching them how to use the system. And that's where I feel like I'm making a greater impact, because I know that's impacting their family because they're making an income by knowing how to use the system, and helping people do the things they need done with like email lists or whatever, any of the things that they enjoy doing, it brings that. So I feel like if you can just build something that gives other people the opportunity to grow and get better and go and make an impact on their family and leave a legacy for their family, then it's beautiful.
I love that. And I think one of the things that's even more important, and this is for you, like if you're listening and maybe not right now, maybe 5-10 years down the line, you're thinking about, okay, I might want to sell my business, or I, want to step away, right? Here is something that's huge that somebody who did step away, they sold their business, told me, is that when they first started, like previous to sell their business, someone told them, can you step away for 6 months and your business still run without you being right there every single day? And if the answer is no, then no, you're not. You might have some things ready, but you are not completely ready to sell that business. You need to be able to walk away and it just runs by itself.
Yes.
So
that's another thing. If your kids don't want to take it over, you have a sellable asset.
Mm-hmm. There you go. See, building that legacy. I could tell you about some oil companies that sold recently for, let's just say, billions of dollars to their biggest competitor, right? That's the West Texas aspect of this. Look it up, Google it, ChatGPT, you can find it. I think I would be lying if I told you the exact amount, but I know it was in the billions, not millions, the billions. Right. So, all right, we have one last thing that is like going to be a little bit of a spicy question, like fuego, a little fiery. And that's, what is one thing somebody who is in the online business space that might do that looks really good on the outside, but is actually setting them up to fail long term?
So I see it all the time with my clients, where they actually argue with me because their AI told them something that was not correct. And I think what's happening, and I'm seeing it more and more, is like we're so super excited about the super fast answers that we're getting, and we're getting all bought into what's going on in that AI world of ours, because we all have our own little world that we've built. So, like for example, like with the AI coding, like being able to build complete code with very difficult and complicated logic. Building something out that's used to, developers would charge $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 for, and take months to complete, literally can be built in a weekend. If you know enough to be dangerous, right? But then you go and make one little change, and without any kind of prompting, the AI completely removes something. I read a story where the AI messed up a calculator for a big financial firm, and they were using the AI code, Claude code, to build it. And the calculator percentage amount, nobody prompted it to do this, but it changed it by a percentage, which would have cost the business millions of dollars, or at least $1 million, if they had not carefully read the code and found that mistake or that error. And so that was just a big warning, like
trust, but verify.
And then double, triple check any logic work that you're doing. There's incredible things that we can do so super fast, but we just have to be careful, especially for guiding people through trauma and things that we don't want it to do something that we didn't know. Like the newest Claude, they said it broke out of the system they had it locked in. So I don't know what's going on necessarily, but that to me is the most spicy stuff that we're getting ourselves into. And as like, if we're not developers, if we're not coders, if we're not the people in that kind of world for our experience, just, you never know. Like, just information is not your learning machine is as smart as you are and as smart as you've taught it. So sometimes it comes up with genius stuff, but sometimes it's not. And also I'm seeing more and more where it's regurgitating information to more people and they're getting the same responses as everybody else. So then we're all going to look like copycats. So just remember that you're the genius of your, of your skill set. You've got your special calling. And to me, that's what's most important, not how fast AI can generate a response, but how much of you can put into that so that you can make it, as real and authentic as possible.
No, I love that. And it's so for an avid listener who's listened, I did a podcast a couple of episodes ago about AI. And that one of the biggest things or mistakes that I see people make is they'll implement AI, but you have to make sure when you're implementing AI that you trust but verify, and that you're making sure there's like some type of human on top of that right now. I'm not saying that maybe at a later date you don't need to do that as much, but I'm just saying there's like a human that double checks it. And for some reason, when you were talking about that financial institute, that made me think of Office Space. Like for those who are a little older, they may remember this great movie called Office Space. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's a good weekend, not a high budget movie, but it's really funny because remember the guy like coded the thing to take like a penny off for like years and years and years. And instead, like all of a sudden it was $1 million. And they were like, what happened? But yeah, that could happen with AI too, people. So check what you're doing and, definitely. So obviously, Melissa, this has been a wonderful conversation because I think there are so many people out there walking around believing, one, I just need to hustle harder. I need to do more. I need to be able to buy that other tool. I need to launch another offer, when what they really need to do, from what you're saying and from like my personal belief, is maybe take a step back, look at their structure, right? They need to find a path. They need to build the systems to support their business, especially if they're trying to build it to be light. We all want our businesses to be light. And I love that what you do brings, people back to that, right? So before we wrap up, can you tell everyone where they can find you, connect with you, and learn more about what you do?
Sure. We're Priddy, Priddy Impact Group. Also, we have the Fast Start Pro environment that we've built. And so both avenues would get you access to us where you can, book a call to let me, talk to you about your structure. And let's see what you've got. Facebook and Instagram and all the things. I'm on all the socials. So.
Yeah, but say everywhere. And of course, that's Priddy. Like she said, it's Priddy, not pretty the other way spelled. I love it. Thank you very much, Melissa, for being here. And of course, for everybody listening, if you love this episode, make sure you share it with a fellow founder, entrepreneur, your business bestie, who is doing amazing work, but carrying way too much on their back. So
thank you for having me, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, for those who have waited, because they're like, yes, the tequila segment, my moment to drink my tequila, right? Now we have one of my new personal favorites. I like a little, and I'm going to say this wrong, Pocho Fino. Dang it, I can't ever get it to stay. It's Pocho Fino. If you don't know this, like who is like, I guess, a co-founder, somebody who invested, but definitely repping it is, of course, Gabriela Iglesias. It's a great tequila. They have a couple different flavors. They have a Blanco. They have Mexican candy that I tried last time. And this is, of course, grilled pineapple. So before you go, I want you to obviously think about today's conversation. Because it was all about structure, support, and what happens when you finally stop building in fragments. And honestly, the same energy applies to good tequila. And I say that because a good tequila has structure, it has balance, it has intention, it has a vibe, obviously. Some are more fun, some are more refined, but it's not chaotic. And of course, we are highlighting Pocho Fino Grilled Pineapple. And first of all, let's say this is definitely a vibe. I like this because this is bringing a little sweetness, a little warmth, and of course, boldness to the table. And y'all know I have an affinity for Gabriela Iglesias. But what I love about something like this, right, is it gives you that layered flavor experience. you get something a little juicy, a little smoky, a little bright. And of course, it feels fun. It feels grounded, which is very much the energy I want you to have in your business. So you can be bold, you can be dynamic, and you can have a flavor, but there still needs to be structure underneath. So as you take your shot, I want you to think about these three things. Where in your business are you calling it a tech problem where it might be a structure problem? Where are people getting lost between your offers because there's no clear path? And what would be lighter if you're in your business if everything did not depend on you? So let me try to get this open, and I'm going to try desperately not to break another lid because my husband's not here. Oh, look at that. It popped right out. Amazing. Oh, my super expensive plastic cup here that's pink that I've had forever. That's going to be my little shot today. I have to drive after this. So, but obviously, sip, salud, have it. For those who have it. Okay, this might be my new favorite. I thought Mexican candy was my new favorite, but this one might be it. But for all those, until next time, keep building smarter, keep leading with your corazón, and keep your tech working for you and not the other way around. Remember, I want you to enjoy your tequila after a day of work, not feel like it's necessary. It's necesario because your tech is stressing you out or your business is stressing out. That is what Tech and Tequila is all about. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you, everyone.
And salute. That is the end. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, but maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.